The MIAA State Championships are Sunday. I'm Evan Marinofsky, joined by Patrick Donnelly. Pat, it's kind of we've been doing these as they're kind of like Rinkwise podcasts. We put them out as podcasts. They're sort of shorter things, but you get more quick hits. So I think people might like that more.
Yeah, you get rid of the fluff of us probably talking about nothing for the first 10 minutes of the show, and we get right to the point, and we keep it quick.
We do keep it quick. We keep it short and sweet, and we'll try to stay right to the point. So, MIA State Championships are this Sunday. 6 games. I'm sure they're all going to start perfectly on time. No delays. The final game will start right at 7:30 p.m. on the button. I
So
will
you
never.
mean Milton and Medfield won't be a West Coast start?
Can you believe it? Can you believe it? I will
Well, you
never
know
get
what?
over. I'll never get over last year when you texted me after the first game and you're like, "Yeah, we're in the third overtime," and it was like 12 o'clock. Like, man, we're in
Yeah.
for a long day.
Well, I mean, first game going to overtime, then a second overtime, and then they did the ice for the third overtime, and it was insane.
I will never forget that, and I will never forget being there for the final game. And we have a celebration shot of Boston Latin because I believe they were the last game, and you can see the time in the background. I think it says something like 11:45, which is insane to be playing a state championship game that late. But again, I don't know how else you do it. Like it's the Garden. You want to have all the games on one day, and they used to do
Yeah,
I
and
think
I'd
7.
yeah, and I'd rather have it all in one day as opposed to basketball because we hear Ethan and Steve talk about it, and it's like 4 days at the Songus Center. Like,
No thanks.
no way.
No way. Give me one day, all in one, and I'm for it. So let's start. D4 boys are first. Number 5 Winthrop versus number 6 Dedham. This is an interesting matchup. Things did not go chalk. You look at Winthrop's path. They took down Apponequet Regional. I hope I said that correctly. They took down Norwell. They beat number 4 Littleton 4-0 in the round of 8. And then, or excuse me, in the round of 4. And then they beat, or excuse me, I'm sorry, round of 8. It would be round of 8. We're going into the round of 2. And then
It's
round
so
of
much easier
4.
if we say quarterfinals and semifinals.
I
And
know,
first
I
round,
know.
second round.
I should just say that. I should
I
just
mean, it
say that.
doesn't
But
say it on the bracket, so you're
I
just looking at
know.
what you're seeing.
And then so they beat number 4 Littleton, and then they upset number 1 Stoneham 5-1 in the semifinals on this past weekend. And then you look at Dedham's path. They beat Rockland. They beat Pentucket. They upset number 3 Dover Sherborne 2-0. And then they got number 10 Hudson in the final, and they beat them 5 second period goals, Pat. They were scoreless after one. All goals were in the second period. Their seniors have been big for them. They beat Hudson 5-0. Winthrop, their captain Phil Boncourt, has been huge. He had 2 goals to beat Stoneham this past weekend. So interesting matchup for sure. Both teams are hot. They both upset some teams along the way. I'm not going to give a prediction quite yet. We're going to save that for online, but I'm curious to sort of see what this matchup brings. They will start on time. We know that. But good for both those teams to make it all the way to TD Garden. Then at 11 a.m. Division One girls, number 1 Hingham, which we said all year they're the number 1 team in Division One girls, and it was reflected in the bracket. And then number 15 Bishop Stang. What do you think of this, Pat?
Yeah, so don't go back check my predictions because it wasn't good outside of Hingham.
Don't look at
Um,
mine either. Oh,
yeah, I mean it's really impressive what Stang's been able to do. They had probably maybe the toughest road of any of the girls finalists. You beat NDA, you upset the number 2 team who was arguably the number 1 team. You upset Bishop Fian, who was really high scoring, had one of the best players in the state with Chloe Brita. And then you beat Methuen Tewksbury, who maybe not the most high flying team, but a team that could pack it in, play defense first, get good goaltending, and just kind of suffocate teams that way. And they got it done every step of the way. They have a freshman in net, Vivian Mello, who's been really good. Casey Curran's been good. Issa Rue. They've just been getting timely play from throughout, and it's paid off.
and I think the big question, and we sort of had this with St. John's Prep and Winchester last year on the Division One boys side, where it's like, can this lower seeded team in Bishop Stang give Hingham a fight? Can they upset them? Do you see a path for that to happen? I'm not gonna ask you for a prediction, but do you see that potentially happening?
I mean, you think so. You talk about playing your best hockey at the right time, and you look at the teams they've beaten. They've beaten three teams that I don't know if Fian was in our final top 10. I think they were. If they weren't, they were just on the outside. You beat three teams that were top 10 teams for all intents and purposes in Division One all season long. So you're playing your best hockey at the right time. You're getting clutch play, and you've got momentum on your side. And that we've talked about how momentum matters in a tournament like this. But look at the other side in Hingham, and Hingham's had a pretty tough road too, for considering they're a one seed. They had to beat, um, who did they? I have the bracket up. I should just look at the
The
bracket.
bracket's tough because you have to like is it huge for you too? You got to like go around the
Yeah.
page. Okay, I just want to make sure that
So
wasn't just
so
me.
Hingham, you take care of Wellesley in round one. Shrewsbury gave you a fight in round two, and Shrewsbury's 2 years removed from a title, and they're a team that can give good teams hell. So, you have a tough battle with Shrewsbury. Then you got to play Belmont, who was undefeated for the longest time. And now you're here. So it wasn't like it was a complete cakewalk for them. Izzy Pulio's been good. Caroline Doherty's obviously doing her thing. Hannah Lash has had a phenomenal tournament. So is Callie Crean. So a lot of the players we've talked about all year kind of doing their thing.
Yeah, and we say this all the time with these types of games. Like, obviously, nothing to lose is a bit much because, like, losing a championship is
You have a
not
state
good.
title to
Yeah,
lose, yes.
yeah, like it's
It
not
hurts.
quite true. But there is not the pressure on Bishop Stang that there is on Hingham. Like, as the number
Yeah,
one seed, you better beat that 15 seed. I think we can all agree on that. And 15 seed, it's sort of like, hey, we're on a crazy run. Let's win this thing.
yeah, and just imagine like if Hingham was still undefeated, how much more pressure there would be.
I know. They lost the last game of the year, right?
They did, which I don't know if we said it on the podcast or not, but I said it to you. Like it's probably a better thing that they lost that last game to kind of free you up a little bit going
100%.
into the tournament, so you're not weighed down by undefeated season.
100%. If only the 2007 Patriots lost the final game of the regular season to those New York Giants, that would have been
And not the
clutch.
final game of the entire season.
Exactly, exactly. For over 20 years, Eric Nate's Euro Hockey has been helping hockey players of all ages develop their individual skills and improve on all aspects of their game. Through structured drills and innovative training equipment, Eric Nate's Euro Hockey's intense on-ice instruction challenges each student to be the best at their ability. Find a hockey clinic or summer camp that is right for you today at nateshockey.com. That's Nates hockey.com. Eric Nate's Euro Hockey, train to be the best.
Do you want to become a better hockey player this summer with Paul Vincent Hockey? Since 1972, Paul Vincent, currently the head skills instructor of the Florida Panthers, has been developing NHL and college hockey players. Paul Vincent stands by his saying, there's always room for player development. Players such as Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, Keith Yandel, Matt Grislick, Patrick Sharp, Adam Oates, and many more have trained with Coach Vincent and his staff and have outstanding results. Join Paul Vincent this summer at one of his 4 Massachusetts locations, Canton, Saugus, Middleton, and Falmouth on Cape Cod. To reserve your spot today, go to pvhockey.com or call 978-807-4070. That's pvhockey.com or call 978-807-4070. Paul Vincent is ready to get back to work this summer. Are you?
Do you want to skate fast? For 50 years, Laura Stam instructors have taught youth players to pros how to skate correctly, powerfully, and fast. Players who attend Laura Stam power skating programs learn how to skate fast by learning how to execute every maneuver in hockey. They become powerful, stable, efficient, and explosively fast skaters. If you can't wait for a clinic, join our subscription skills video service, and we'll show you the skills taught at our clinics in an easy-to-use video format with training plans to guide your training. Register or subscribe now at laurastam.com. That's LauraStamm.com. You can learn to skate fast.
Then you get to 1 p.m., and this is the Division One boys game, number 4 CM, number 14 St. John Shrewsbury. I got to admit, Pat, didn't have this as my final when I did my bracket at the start. So CM has been red hot. CM ended the year red hot. I think in my final rankings, I almost put them one. Like I teased it in the lead. I genuinely like the final rankings I did for the season. I probably sat there for 30 minutes, like, all right, do I put them above Pope? Do I put them below Pope? So at the time, yeah, they were below Pope by a tiny percentage. They just beat Pope Francis. 1-0. They held Pope Francis to very few shots. I was not there, so I can't speak on it, but from what I've read, from what I heard from people, phenomenal game plan by head coach Larry Rooney and CM to completely neutralize Pope Francis. Again, CM's road, they beat Wachusett, they beat Arlington Catholic, they beat Archie 6-2, and then they beat Pope 1-0. They've won 9 in a row. Their D pairs, Liam McKinney and Colin Yandel, Seamus Tatton and James Baker, those guys have been phenomenal. Jackson Fleming in net. I think one of the big things, like Jackson Fleming's been awesome. He's the 8th grader. But you also have a very good team defense in front of him that is, helping make sure that he's not facing a ton of shots or a bunch of high danger chances. And CM's been very good at that. In this win streak, they beat Pope twice. They beat Hingham. They're really hot. They're a hard team to pick against. But on the other side, you have a team that is, I have never seen a team just completely change its identity in like a 3-week span. I mean, they ended the season losing, I think, 11 of 13, 9 of 10. Like, they were horrific down the stretch. Horrific. Go look at those final scores. And to their coach's credit, head coach Michael Mead made a change. He went with Colin McCarthy in net. He had never started a varsity game. Round 1 against Burlington was his first ever, and he hasn't lost. He hasn't lost. They also got Daniel Minyalkin back, who's a Bowdoin commit. That can help. That can help. That helps. And I will say this, when you and I do those stories of like unsung or lower ranked teams that could, make noise, upset teams, this and that. I was texting with Michael Mead and I said, is Minyalkin coming back? And what do you think can happen if he does? And he said, I think we can go all the way if Minyalkin comes back. And at the time, you're like, all right, well, it's a coach being good to his team. Like, obviously, yeah, you're going to believe in your team. But that aged like fine wine. He's correct. I mean, they are right there to go all the way. They are on the doorstep. And I like their chances. I don't hate their chances. They are hot at the right time. It's tough because both teams are hot. And they're both on a week-long break, so that kind of negates itself. But they're feeling themselves. And for SJS, they have Connor Sechrist back on D. He'd been hurt most of the year. He's a big baseball player. He came back for a little bit in January and then went out again. Came back. First game was against Arlington. And so their road is fascinating. They beat Burlington. They beat Hingham in OT. They beat Winchester in OT. They beat Arlington in double overtime. They're hot. They're beating great teams. I know CM is as well. But SJS, man. And here's the other thing, right? CM beat them twice in the regular season. CM beat St. John
Shrewsbury. Talk about
Shrewsbury
that a lot.
Twice in the regular season. Hard to beat a team 3 times in the season. Hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year.
So the flip side of that is in girls prep, Loomis Chaffee just did that to Phillips Andover.
I know. I thought of that.
It can happen.
I thought of that. But so we have not written our predictions yet. At least I haven't. You haven't either, correct?
I have not. Yeah.
That's a later tonight or early Thursday morning type thing.
Yes.
We're recording this Wednesday afternoon. I have not made my picks yet, but that's a hard one. I'm having a very tough time with this.
This is like kind of like at the start of the tournament. It's 2 teams where, as we've said already on this podcast and throughout the year, where just play your best hockey at the right time. That's what CM was doing. And then you look at St. John Shrewsbury, and we just have to get healthy. And then they get healthy. You add in the magic of the goalie, all the overtime drama, and it's just got that feel to it,
It does. And the other thing is, like, obviously I had Pope and Belmont in the final, which I was close on Pope. Pope, goal away. I'll give myself that. And I did have Pope and CM going against each other in the semis. I had the right side of the bracket way off. I did not foresee that taking place the way it has. But credit to Arlington for pushing through. They beat St. John's Prep in overtime to get to to get to the semis. And St. John Shrewsbury's just been a wagon. And, I think one thing we always kind of talk about is like, they've kind of been forgotten. Like last year, once they get into the Catholic Conference slate of their schedule, they struggle. They struggled last year, they struggled this year. But you forget that they're constantly playing some of the best teams in the MIAA all year. So it's just what they know. And you look at it like Hingham, public, Winchester, public, Arlington, public. So I do wonder, they clearly have the confidence, but you also wonder on the flip side, are they intimidated by CM? And I'm not saying that they are, but like you've lost to them twice. You've had a tough time with the Catholic Conference all year. It's in some ways, their path has been the devil they don't know is better than the devil they do. And now that they get a Catholic Conference team in the final, I'm very curious how they respond and how they react. And then in net, you have an eighth grader against a kid who's in his, fifth varsity start, and it's the state tournament. If you're Colin McCarthy, do you just retire after this if they win? I'm done. I'm George Costanza. I'm going out on a high note. You have to wonder,
Yeah.
Then you get to the 3 p.m. slot. You have the Division II boys, number 1 Billerica and number 3 Canton.
Probably the 4 p.m. slot in reality.
I was gonna say this is gonna be much later. I don't see this being
all these games are on ESPN. 3 o'clock starting at 3:45.
That's right. Yeah, we wish it was only a
3:37 on TNT.
That's right. Puck. They gotta do the pregame show and everything.
Well, it's because those games don't start until the other national slot finishes, which God forbid we just kick it to ESPN2.
A shame. A shame. Well, it's like in the playoffs when they have to, it's like, all right, the game's on CNBC. Remember back in the day when it'd be like, it'll be on, MSNBC or something for like 20 minutes until the game in front of it finishes. Number 1 Billerica, number 3 Canton. These are two really good programs. They've both been hot. Canton's on a 21-game winning streak entering the Garden. They just beat number 2 Woburn in the semifinal, which again, Woburn played a lot of Division I teams, borderline a Division I team, probably should be a Division I team. So that's a big win for them, for sure. And then, Canton's been really good on defense. They have a bunch of juniors, Will Doucette, Teddy Schumann, Grady Carr. Connor Gagan's been terrific in net. This also is their 5th appearance since 2019 in the Garden, which is, that says a lot about Canton. And on the other side, you have Billerica. Billerica was all set to beat Tewksbury in the semis, and with 0.9 seconds left, Tewksbury scores to tie the game, which is scary as hell. And you think, all right, well, Billerica's done. Billerica did win in overtime. Ryan Johnson scored the OT winner. Steve McIntosh has been great all year in net for them. And then, their top scorers, Danny Visione, Timmy Murphy, James Columbus, Ryan Johnson, who I mentioned, and defenseman Nolan Dawson. So that's going to be a great matchup. Both those teams have certainly earned the right to be there. They've been two of the best Division II teams all year. So it's fitting. It's kind of chalkish. I know obviously Canton beat a higher seed in Woburn, but it's pretty chalk. So going to be interesting to see how that one goes down for that the 3 p.m. slot. Then you have 5:30 p.m. D3 boys. So we go D1 boys, D2 boys, D3 boys. I'm going to run out of voice here. D3, number 1 Nauset, number 2 Medfield. Pat, I'm going to hit you with some bananas stats. All right, these are stats.
Nauset's got video game numbers on offense.
This is what I'm going for. Okay, Logan Poulin, senior forward for Nauset, who has led them completely. And I don't know this for a fact, but I'm going to assume that his 51 goals and 83 points lead all players in all levels of the MIAA.
It's gotta.
I'm going to have to assume. I'm thinking that might. Those are numbers that like you hear, some guy who went on to play in the NHL put up in the MIAA in like 1993. That'll be never topped. That'll never be topped again.
Kind of Keith Kachuk at Malden Catholic. That might be the year.
That might actually be it. Like Bellafay at Framingham is like what I think of. So he's sort of been the straw that stirred the drink for them. They've only allowed 17 goals all season. That is bananas, and they're the only undefeated team in the region. Only undefeated team. They beat Tewksbury, which is big. They've slaughtered pretty much every Division III team they've played. Then you have Medfield on the other side, 18-1-1 this year. They've been really good. Charlie Duggan's been great in net. Luke Dixon, John Shaughnessy, Ben Lusby, Joey Nee, Matty Dixon, All those guys have been vital for Medfield up front. These two teams have played each other. Nauset beat Medfield only 3-0 on February 17th. That's less than a month ago.
Logan Poulin had all three, probably.
Probably, yes. I would have to go back and look. It's hard to beat a team twice in a month. I gotta be honest, I don't see how Nauset loses this game. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Well, now that you've given them the Hockey Journal jinx, but I mean,
Exactly.
but seriously, like I don't know, I would kind of agree. It's just everything about them just screams like wagon, team of destiny, all that.
Yeah,
But this is bulletin board material, all those things.
it
For
is.
Medfield.
It is. Medfield should be playing this. Maybe this will
Just
open
like-
their promo video.
Yeah, just like Dexter did with you.
Exactly, as Dexter should have.
Are you serious about playing your sport in college? Do you need a flexible education that allows you to maintain your practice and competition schedules while also preparing you to succeed at the next level? You should check out the University of Nebraska High School. UNHS is accredited and offers more than 100 online courses, including NCAA-approved courses to protect your academic eligibility. Students could earn a UNHS diploma or take a single course for transfer credit. Courses are college prep, self-paced, and available 24/7, 365. Enroll anytime and take up to a year to complete a course. Visit highschool.nebraska.edu today.
So I say, go top shelf, upper 90s, right under the crossbar. Any questions?
Professor, the NCAA Lacrosse Championships are coming to Boston. Are we ready?
You prepared to get loud, face paint up, bring boom boom to Beantown? Oh, you're ready. The NCAA D1, D2, and D3 men's and D1 women's lacrosse championships, May 23rd through the 26th in Boston. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/tickets.
Nauset was in the final last year and lost 1-0. So again, there's that motivation to get back there. Logan Poulin looking to come up big this time. So I think it's sort of the picturesque ending to his senior year for him. He's a kid who I think I was reading in the Globe. I think he left at one point. I'm checking this right now.
I think so, yeah. I remember reading that story.
So he went to the Boston Advantage for a bit. It was Boston Advantage a couple years ago. And he decided to stick it out at Nauset. And I think he's a phenomenal example of the kind of gratification you can get by staying at your high school. And we talk about, this is a whole nother podcast. It's something we'll probably dive into deeper in the offseason. And then we end the day, Division II girls, last but certainly not least, number 6 Milton, number 13 Medfield. So Medfield, I think this is why they put Medfield 2 in a row. I mean, you can just keep the student sections there and everything. They're at 7:30. What do you think of this matchup, Pat?
Yeah. Well, I would like to pat myself on the back really quickly. In my not sleeper, we call them sleepers in the headline, but they're more like, under the radar teams. We're not talking about them that much. Milton was one of the teams I highlighted in D2, one of those teams that could make noise in the tournament. And they've certainly made noise, and they've had, they haven't gone up against the highest seeds. They beat number 7 Marshfield, who upset Duxbury, to get to the Garden. They beat Woburn. They beat Dennis Yarmouth, but they've had a lot of one-goal games. They had a scare against Dennis Yarmouth, which was 4-3. Dedham gave them a 1-0 game. It was 2-1 in overtime, I believe, against Woburn, or Marshfield, excuse me. Sabrina Stone had both goals to tie it and win it in double overtime. She's been awesome. She's their leading scorer. Molly Murphy, Nayeli Thayer, they've been strong all season. And Kara Hart is a really good story in net. She's a freshman. She won the job over a senior going into the year. So she's been playing out of her mind, and Milton's been one of the better teams in D2, flying under the radar for us all year. And Medfield's had a really, really tough road. Medfield beat the 4th seed, Algonquin. They beat the 5th seed, Burlington. They beat the 1st seed, Westwood.
So they've done everything.
And Burlington and Westwood were 2 of the highest scoring teams in D2 and the state on the girls' side. And then Burlington has a pretty short bench, but they were still, putting up numbers. And so really impressive run for Medfield here. Annie Flippo's been really good. Cameron Parachi, I believe it is. Can't read my own handwriting. And Maeve Kelly. Maeve Kelly's actually had a really strong tournament. She's a senior for them. She's been popping up all over the score sheets when I've kept tabs. So two teams that are on great runs here, and we talk about the battle tested factor and all that. Medfield certainly got that just with the road they have to go through. But I mean, so they do have a week off. This kind of negates this, but some of the things we talked about with prep was just some of these tough roads, and do you kind of give all you have in those big upsets, and then by the time you get there, are you out of steam? Probably not an issue where you have a week off, but you never know.
I also think Medfield is there twice. You have boys and girls.
Yes.
One of them's got to win, you would think, right? And they both made it as well. Medfield's a 2 seed for Division 3 boys, but I mean, Division 2 girls, they're the freaking 13th seed, which is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, you have to the emotional factor is going to be huge for them. Just especially, if the crowd is already riding high after a boys win. I mean, either way, it's probably going to be a pretty rabid crowd. Just, if it's out for blood after a tough loss or riding high after a win.
Yep, Sunday night. So Medfield, I assume Medfield students
at
are
10 p.m.
That's right. Yeah, they will be showing up late the next day to class. That's been the preview for MIAA Championship Day, which should be a great one. We will have coverage of that throughout the day. We'll have live updates we have a scores page we just put up earlier this week for just that day. We obviously have the individual Division 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, all that. And we'll have stories from each game. And
if you want to see how wrong and how dumb we are, go back and look at our predictions.
Ooh, yes, go look at our brackets. Just don't look at the left side of mine. Don't look at the right. Don't look at the right, because
I'd have to. I know it's not good for mine. I want to know just how bad it is, though. But I've been a little afraid to look.
I haven't looked at mine since I made it, so
yep.
I know what I've
Same.
picked, but I don't know what my percentages are or anything.
I just remember, especially some of the first 2 rounds where I had St. Mary's kind of making a little bit of a run, and it's they lost first game. It was all right, here we go.
I forgot about that. Well, I was
And Longmeadow let us down.
I have never been more angry at a team than when Belmont lost for boys. I was like, you were my team. I put everything on the line for you guys. I was, hyping them up, and they lost in the second round. So, but that's the magic of the MIAA tournaments, man. That's the fun. We could do a whole nother episode on the Super 8 and how it should come back or why it shouldn't come back. But one of the benefits to not having it is you get these bananas matchups in the championship. In a perfect world, St. John Shrewsbury would be in the Division 1 tournament and CM would be in the Super 8. And that's how it would work. And you could make the case down the board. But it's what it is. And it kind of makes it more fun. I obviously was a beneficiary of there being a Super 8 tournament. I don't know if we had the Division 1, I don't know if we would have made it. But we made it because I was in the Division 1. So we'll see. That's a topic for another day, though. Not for this. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the games this Sunday. That's Patrick Donnelly. I'm Evan Marinofsky. We will see you at the rinks.